That hurt. More verticality. Are you on Twitter? Or do you do you watch any of the new independent YouTube soccer media out there, Bill, at all? Are you keeping up with that?
Other than not other than you guys? No. Do you have any you want to recommend?
Yeah, sure. You have 11 Yanks, I think, is really good. Help me out, Brett.
Okay.
Tactical manager's really good. A young guy, but you know, he's a good guy. And then Sam
Yank
Show,
Report.
Yank Report. And then there's FIFA America too. But like, I mean, the thing is that
it's definitely a growing population of people coming up, and it's great to see the community growing.
Yeah,
organically, if you will.
And that is good to hear.
They're saying things like you used to say, right? They're being open and honest. They're fearless. And I think that bodes well going forward because access is an issue, as you said before. It really is. All right. So let's go ahead.
It's tough, you know. Tough. No, it's tough. And, you know, going way back to what I said about Grant, you know, I appreciate Grant's problem. Grant, you know, he doesn't need to be thrown out of press conferences. He doesn't need to be denied tickets. He doesn't, you know, that makes it impossible to do his job. But at some point, you get to go ahead and claim that you're a crusading journalist for truth, justice, and whatever, and then not write that stuff. You got to pick.
Right.
You know, people like who covered FIFA for years, like Andrew Jennings, paid a terrible price for, you know, go on YouTube and look at Andrew Jennings and Jack Warner. Andrew Jennings chasing Jack Warner through train stations and stuff, and Jack Warner, go ask your mother and I would spit on you. And also, I mean, he really took a lot of abuse, but he couldn't get anywhere, and he got thrown out of every FIFA hotel ever. And he didn't care. He just kept going after it and going after it and going after it. And he played a big role in bringing Sepp down.
Yeah. And I think
he just died, by the way.
Yeah. I think a lot of people that we talk to in this sort of new independent media thing, and these are guys that have like, you know, I mean, it's not giant. It's like 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, but still that's a massive leap compared to where we were back in the old days. And I just I'm glad you're just confirming that that's bullshit, because, you know, this whole thing that, you know, the guys that are asking Berhalter questions at the press conferences, they have to watch what they say. Wouldn't you agree with that? They can't ask the wrong question.
Oh, they absolutely do. You know, the PR people at MLS call your editors and you know, they say, look, can you send somebody else? You know, it costs you your job.
Yep.
You know, and everybody plays the game, and everybody knows the rules, and to an extent that's okay. Somebody has got to sit there and listen to the drivel that Greg Berhalter says after a game. You know, yeah, well, we outpossessed the snot. We got our brains beat out, but we really possessed that ball well. That's right. You know. Well, see, and again, because I'm a Crew fan, I watched Greg Berhalter teams for years, and the game that they play is exactly the way the Crew played for however many he was here, 4 years, 5 years, however long he was here. It's exactly the same thing, and it's boring as hell, and it's, you know, it's all based on possession and playing out of the back. And how often can you? You know, that's the question that you want somebody to stand up in one of those conferences and say, Greg, how many times do we have to, you know, get the ball to a winger intercepts a pass, one of our guys at the halfway mark, and instead of even looking across the field, instead of looking upfield, so, you know, taking 2 seconds to evaluate, his instant reaction is to turn and pass it back, turn and pass it back. Turn and pass it back. Maybe you get a square pass every once in a while. Nothing, anything about let's take a few touches forward and see if somebody makes a run. So none of that, because that's what Greg teaches. And I'm really firmly convinced that you get all these people who all these kids, and you keep them in camp for 2 weeks, and you play 3 games, and then they go back and they suck for a couple of weeks because they're still playing Berhalter ball. And I really would like somebody to say, Greg, have you ever heard of a counterattack? Somebody, what couldn't we once in a while go forward? When we're playing a weak opponent, what is the sense in playing out of the back all the time? But it's not the stuff that they'll ever ask, because they'll never get let in the presser again.
But Bill, he ends up calling in players because it improves verticality. Verticality. I mean,
if he says so.
I mean, why? Go ahead, Brett. Sorry.
No, I don't know. We play very much a predictable style here. This is how it's going to go. Yeah, we're all going to butt in. Yeah, no, but we play a very predictable style, and it's, I don't know.
Well,
I had a point there, but I kind of lost it there. But
that's okay. We're all drunk.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, thank you. I'm glad somebody said it. And the teams that well, and again, I go back to Columbus. I keep mentioning Columbus, but I don't care.
Yeah.
The teams that gave him Columbus fits when Berhalter was here were the teams who, like New York, we couldn't beat the Red Bulls. That's because they played that high press. It's because you intercept the ball. You're playing. They don't want to play full field. They don't want to play possession. They want to steal the ball and strike. They want to go. And when you compact the field like that, it doesn't give our guys any time to collect up the ball. You don't get to comfortably pass it around the box, square passes across through the center of the field 38 times and stuff. They get pounced on. And there is, the way he sets it up, the way that he wants the game played, there's no response to that.
There's the reason why we struggle so much against El Salvador.
Well, no, I mean, my question, yes.
Well, I know. Yes.
I mean, the question is, why doesn't Greg Berhalter understand or grasp, and why is he so fucking dogmatic that he can't play against a high press or a low block? That's my question.
Well, I think part of the problem, of course, is that there are two things at play here. He's not paid to win the World Cup. Nobody thinks the U.S. is going to win the World Cup. I mean, maybe there may be somebody, but nobody thinks so. His job is to qualify, and he can, and he can qualify this team and keep his job by playing this ridiculously conservative crapola ball. And you're going to have to, it means that you play people like El Salvador tight, and a bunch of teams that really shouldn't be on the field with us, and then you lose to Canada. No reason to lose to Canada. You keep reading this stuff about, the talent's really, a lot better in Canada. Well, yeah, it's better in Canada, but it was dog shit before, and now it's, USL level, and okay, fine, but it's still not that good. But his job is to qualify the team, to get the team into the World Cup. And I mean, you saw what happened with the last two guys who couldn't manage that. They got fired. They had, what does Jurgen Klinsmann do these days? Grow roses or something? I don't know.
He chimes in on a couple of Bundesliga games. That's about it.
Yeah.
But
well, God bless Jurgen.
I will say though that you'd mentioned, nobody expects us to win the World Cup. But just in a tweet today, Lawless said that our ceiling is the World Cup.
Winner?
It's the World Cup. That's our ceiling. Our ceiling. It kind of vague about it, because you just said, like, somebody asked him, he goes, "Hey, what's the expected ceiling for this, this current U.S. men's national team squad?" And he said the World Cup.
Just making it.
Well, I don't know. It just depends on how you interpret it, I guess.
Ever since. He hasn't made a lick of sense since the day he chugged that Red Bull. He just really.
Yeah, there's an issue.
He has a thing since then that made any sense to anybody.
Problem is he didn't cut it with vodka. That was his problem.
Yeah, well, he needs to work on that. That's for sure.
That's true.
So,
listen,
Bill,
I have a question I'd like to hear you guys address sometime.
All right.
I'd address it myself, but I've talked about it too much. In the overall, I mean, in the taking the whole picture into account, was signing David Beckham and making the deal that they include selling him a $350 million franchise for $25 million, and his salary and all things into consideration, is David Beckham a net positive or a net negative for MLS?
Oh man, this hits home. I'm a Galaxy fan. Fuck.
Well, nobody's perfect.
That's gonna go around, isn't it?
Probably. Bill, honestly, I mean, I'm looking through this in Galaxy glasses, but for me, it was the most exciting time for me as a Galaxy fan in a while.
First 2 or 3
when he
years.
showed up. Whether it was worth it overall, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, because I don't know where Inter Miami's going to end up, because they've been awful so far. But was it worth it? I think so. I think MLS took a baby leap there, and then we're kind of stuck right now, and we're making little incremental leaps now. But that was a big baby leap that we hadn't taken before.
As somebody who doesn't have the rose-tinted glasses of an LA Galaxy fan, I think it was almost net neutral, if anything. Because I don't think – because for the first part, the first 2 or 3 years he was in the league, Galaxy still didn't qualify for the playoffs. Now, of course, they ended up coming back, and they ended up getting a couple champions at the end there. But then it took like a decade for him to even work out getting a team. Yeah. So I guess my ultimate gripe about this is it really started the narrative. I mean, I know we had the narrative prior to this, but it started the narrative of MLS is just a retirement league. It's where all the aged Europeans come to just end their careers and make a bunch of money before they hang up their cleats. And I'm not blaming that purely on him, but I mean, it definitely started the narrative.
Punch somebody. Yeah, absolutely.
And now Bill's going to give us the real answer. Go, Bill.
Well, I wish I had the real answer. I go back and forth. I mean, and some people will say that it, as you said, it jump started the whole designated player thing. I don't think that. I mean, it was probably going to happen, but it probably wasn't going to happen as soon as it did. But they had to come up. They had to invent a mechanism by which you could pay this guy something close to what he was worth.
Right.
And there was no other way. They certainly couldn't fit him into a salary budget. So they said, I know, we'll call this a designated player. And much as they would have liked to say, this only works for New York and Los Angeles, they were forced to make it applicable to everyone.
Yeah.
And so, in that sense, they probably moved the league forward considerably by a matter of 5 years or even.
Yep.
I think the bigger improvement would have been the
negative.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Bill.
No, what was he saying?
I think the bigger inclusion. I think the bigger improvement would have been the young designated player rule, where they basically.
Oh, I like that.
That's what I'm saying. Instead of saying the LAs and the New Yorks back in the day could just go out and find a name, and that worked. For establishing an improvement. Some people came out to watch Gerrard. Some people watch Lampard. Beckham and all that. But I think what's improving the league more when it comes to designated player is the young designated player rule.
No, that's fair. But I don't think people give Garber any credit. And I mean, I'm no fan of him, but I mean, I am and I'm not. But they don't give him credit for working these things out. Like DP TAM and GAM, for instance, are just a way to get around the conservative owners who don't want to raise the salary cap. So he's like, well, fuck you then. I'll just make some shit up. And
it's a monopoly money.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Bill?
Aren't they getting, isn't GAM going away? Or is it one of the two is going away?
I would imagine TAM is. I know GAM.
Well, no, you know.
I was going to say GAM was included in the $1 million bids recently, where like Ariel was talking about going to FC Dallas, and it's going to be like a $2 million GAM deal. The Acosta to LA Galaxy, or what was it, LAFC, and that was like a $1.2 million GAM deal. So maybe it's TAM that's going bye-bye, and it's GAM that's sticking around. I don't know.
Well, the players don't like that, and the reason they don't like it is because it's a mechanism for getting around the salary cap. That's money that is held out that the average player does not have access to.
Yep.
You know, your salary is limited, but this guy's is not, and they don't like it, and I understand that. But you're right about Don Garber. He's come up with some amazing, or he and his people come up with some amazing. You know, people want to say, well, it's Calvin Ball, and it's yeah, it is. But in the early days, at least, you and I remember when it was not a sure thing. Up until probably Toronto came in, and what was it, 2008? This league was not a sure thing. This league was, on really shaky ground. And in fact, what was it, 2002? It was within 20 minutes of folding, and finally they, Anschutz and Hunt sat down and said, "Fine, we'll fund this out of our pocket for a couple of years." I mean, it was shaky.
Yeah.
And so they came up with a bunch of hinky mechanisms, and everybody said, "Yeah, well, that's just making it up as you go along." You're damn right. They're making it up as they went along, and it worked.
Yeah.
No, Bill, I have to say, I really appreciate the Calvin and Hobbes reference you made there. I don't know if everybody picked up on it, but that was I appreciate that. I was a big Calvin Hobbes fan back in the day. But two,
that was some funny stuff.
Yeah, it was. It's good.
Hercules Gomez actually talked about the whole GAM-TAM transfers and movement throughout the league compared to, say, transfers abroad. And he talked about how the big issue here is that the players who generally like in Europe or anywhere else around the world, let's ignore the funny money here in MLS. Let's say transfers and anywhere else, players are guaranteed like 10% of the actual transfer fee. So if you transfer for $6 million, you're going to get $600,000 as just here you go, here's your money. But you transfer Acosta, who had interest abroad, even though MLS downplayed it. And then they transferred him for $1.2 million to LAFC. That sounds impressive. Like, holy crap, LAFC must really like him. But I mean, it kind of, in the end, and I'm not sure what the inner workings, if there are any inner workings with GAM-TAM transfers for the players. But I mean, that basically took money out of Acosta's pocket rather than transferring. But it benefits Colorado more to transfer within the league than it does transfer abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a better deal for them because if they transfer him to Zurich or Salzburg, that's money they're not going to see. So there's that.
Well, and it's hard to blame the players for not thinking that they ought to get a bigger cut of this.
Yeah.
They look overseas. They look at Fifth Pro. They look at everything that goes on in Europe. They look guys coming out of South America. Now that gets ridiculous at one point. So many people come out of South America, and this agent owns 5%, and this club owns 7%, and this guy owns 9%. This guy, they're all fractionalized into a million pieces, but the player still gets a good chunk.
Let's move into this next window, Bill, because I know we already talked about World Cup qualifying, but we've got about 17 minutes to go. If you're willing to hang in there with us.
Sure, why not?
Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. We've got 3 really tough games coming up. Is there a situation where we might not qualify? I mean, is that possible? Could be.
Well, anything's possible, and but I think I would be shocked, wouldn't you, that if the U.S. didn't qualify this round, particularly with the expanded field. I mean, now that they've taken it to what it is, 120 teams or whatever it is they have now. I don't know. It's 60, it's 48. They come up with new numbers all the time.
All those new spots are going to go to European teams.
Yes, that's true. Well, we're gonna finally be able to absolutely, we're going to eliminate the fact that Oceania has to play a play-in game, so that we'll get somebody from the Pacific that doesn't belong there, and we'll get a couple teams from Africa. And really, it's about Africa. Nobody cares about the small European teams that don't make it. But FIFA's big concern right now is Africa. They have so many votes, and they keep expanding the field, and because when you get a team in the World Cup, you get money, and those teams don't really care if they make it out of the first round or whatever. So they'll keep expanding it, as long as that's his fallback position from getting the World Cup every 2 years. But no, I can't believe that the U.S. would not qualify, and I think we'll qualify forever.
That hurt.